My personal card of the year practice is a deep dive, transformational, year-long work with the card. My approach helps me focus on a single, expansive theme. Before adopting this style, I either barely paid attention to the card or was really scattered about doing readings. Now that I do the deep dive every year, I can see transformation in my life and the way I approach my relationships, career, passions, self-worth, and community. In this video, I'll show you how I approach my card of the year so you can try it too. You don't have to adopt all of these steps. This is just what works for me. But I do hope at least a couple of these ideas will help you get more out of your personal card of the year. So, how do you calculate your personal card of the year? I recommend looking at Benabel Wen's description. It's super detailed and she takes you through it step by step. I linked to her post in the description. But the basics are to add up the numbers of the day you were born, plus the month you were born, plus the current year. For example, if February 3rd is your birth date, then you add 2 for the month and 3 for the day you were born, which gives you 5. Then you add up the digits of the current year, which is 2025, so 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, which is 9. And then you add 5 plus 9, which gives you 14. The card of the year will always be from the major arcana, so for our example, that gives us Temperance. When you add your numbers, if you get something over 22, then add those digits together until your number is under 22. And the Fool, instead of being 0, is 22 because you'll never get a 0. The next step is to choose a single word that will be your theme for the year based on your major arcana card. I begin this work with a deep dive into the meaning using my own notes and a variety of books. Finding the Fool is my favorite general use book. Then I layer on top of that books that are more specific to different areas of life, like Radical Tarot, Tarot for Change, Inner Tarot, Tarot for Creativity, Red Tarot, 78 Acts of Liberation, and other books from my collection. I'll link the ones I mentioned in the description. I take lots of notes. During this first round, I write down anything that comes to mind or anything I find in the books. I record anything that seems foundational, fresh, or challenges my previous knowledge of the card. I go through my books, I look online, I look through the notes I've taken over the years. I even just do a brainstorm to come up with all the meanings I have at the tip of my tongue. The next thing I do is I pull that card from multiple decks and I lay them all out. I meditate on them. I just let my mind wander, find more connections, expand more. I take into consideration the ways different artists depict the card. Then I do a second round with my notes. I reread, rewrite, summarize, consolidate, connect, and find more expansive ways to look at the card. As I review the notes, I start honing in on the word of the year. I want one single word that is my word or theme of the year. I might not have a single word at this point, so I often do a mind map. I'd honestly recommend a mind map even if you have your single word at this point. Mind maps are a fabulous way to make your word or theme of the year as expansive as possible. Here's an example of the word I chose for my Temperance year. I chose connection. I made a mind map with connection at the center, and then I used my consolidated notes to help me add the themes, meanings, concepts, and connections to my word of the year. I want to show how that single word encompasses all these related concepts. And now that I have my single word, I have my theme for the year, I post that word at my reading table, near my altar, at my work desk. It's the foundation for forward movement and expansion throughout the year. In my Temperance year, I used connection. In my Death year, I used death. And in my Devil year, I'm using deviate for my word of the year. That single word is your guiding light, your GPS, your word to push you outside your comfort zone for this year. It is for all areas of your life, so make sure it's an expansive word. I also like to create an altar for my card of the year at my desk. I'll choose a sigil card. I set out the major arcana card and it sits with me all year long. I put out crystals that correspond to my meaning of the card. Sometimes I light a candle at the card's altar. I might swap out those crystals. The altar doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be that single card, sitting out where you can see it all year long. Now that I have my word for the year, I'm going to move into a monthly, weekly, and daily practice. So my next step is to develop a spread for my monthly reading. I use that single word and the mind map to create these spreads. I do a reading each month using that spread. The reading guides me through my work, my relationships, my spiritual and creative life, my activism, and more. These readings lay the foundation for the whole month. Based on my reading, I write out 3 to 5 pieces of wisdom that I'll take with me for the month. And then based on that wisdom, I choose crystals, phrases or words of power I use to meditate. I write daily draw questions, and then I also write up nightly draw questions or journal prompts to use in my evening routine. So I start with that single word of the year, and then I create from that a monthly spread. Then each month I get more guidance, I go deeper, I get more expansive. I bring in my favorite tools with my crystals, journaling, and meditation. It's all focused back on my card of the year. I put all of this stuff, this wisdom, these crystals, these phrases, onto a note card, and I keep that at my sacred space. And then I also transfer some of that to a separate note card and take it up to my work desk and keep it in my planner. This is all just to keep it top of mind throughout the month. These are some examples of the monthly cards, crystals, and meditations. I'm not going to read these out to you, but feel free to pause and read them. Another thing I like to do is to write down the monthly wisdom and the words of power on a note card. They each get their own card. I don't want them hidden away in a journal, so I keep them on these note cards and I set them at my desk, and then I store them so I can take them into the next month and the next year. Now that I have the monthly reading set up, I also do a weekly deep dive based on the monthly reading. This deep dive often creates a goal or a focus for the week. I take the words of wisdom or power from the monthly reading and drill down into them. These are some of the typical questions I ask for my weekly deep dive. How can I incorporate that wisdom into my life this week? What is stopping me from accepting that wisdom or that lesson? Tell me more about that lesson or wisdom. Again, I go year to month to week to day, aligning my work to that single expansive word based on my personal card of the year. I pull the most salient things from those readings and write them on note cards. I keep those cards at my desk and I store them in a recipe box. These are the things that resonate most with me or make a big difference in my thinking or actions. I don't want those things hidden away in a journal entry that I'll never look at again. This recipe box has become a massive oracle deck at this point. I don't want to leave those lessons from my card of the year in the past, so I collect those quotes all year long and keep them here. These become the basis for future tarot readings, meditations, and spells. This practice has provided deep insights and helped me make lasting changes with my personal card of the year. Let me remind you that you don't have to do all of it. I developed a practice that worked for me, and I hope you do too. You can take pieces of this practice, adapt them to your needs, or just use them as inspiration. Thank you for watching. I hope you found something helpful to your practice in this video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments.